All right, so it says this meeting is being live streamed. I'm super excited to come at you tonight with my Ask Me Anything session. So welcome everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight. For those of you who are joining me on Facebook, please go ahead and go into the chat and go to chat.restream.io and give the app permission so that I can see your name so that we can interact with one another. So really excited to have each and every one of you here with me. Hey, okay, so this is interesting. This is kind of new to me as well. Someone on LinkedIn is saying, hi, Doc, hello to you too. I wonder if there's a way to see what your name is. So whoever you are on LinkedIn, I just want to thank you so very much for joining me. So tonight's session is an Ask Me Anything session. We have been getting a lot of questions about our short-term rental / medium-term rental that was featured on Netflix. And I just wanted to come in here and just answer everyone's question. Just been like 30 to 40 minutes or so tonight, answering everyone's question. Hello, Sandra. It is so good to meet you. Oh my goodness, super excited as well. So let's see here. I want to make sure that I am live inside of the Facebook group. Oh, hey, Megan. Thank you for the congratulations. I see you, friend. Super stoked about that as well. I'm gonna go in here real quick. I know Christian is probably looking for me. So Christian, somehow my link is dead. So I don't know what happened to the Zoom link that was created for me, but it is all good. We figured it out and everything is figure outable. So without further ado, I thank you so much. I see Will. Hello, Will. Welcome. Yay. So I do have a few questions that were sent to me from last week. I wanted to go ahead and knock those out first, and then you guys feel free to ask me anything. But you know what? Let me just introduce myself. If we haven't yet met, my name is Rachel. I am a healthcare professional by training. However, I am in the short-term rental space. Some of you call it Airbnb. Some of you call it Verbos, but pretty much short-term rental, mid-term rental space. And so we have a mix of properties. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of our story and how we ended up on this journey that essentially landed us on Netflix, because a lot of you have been inquiring. So inquiring minds wanted to know. So let me pull up my little Q&A sheet real quick. If you don't mind, I really appreciate your patience. Okay, there. It should be right in here. Awesome. Okay, so I know Margie, you were looking for the link. I really hope you're able to join and see me and all of the things. Let's see. Okay, I see a few more LinkedIn users. Okay. So super excited. Let me make sure, guys, do me a favor. Let me know, please, whether or not you can hear me. I want to see some thumbs up in the chat. I want to see some hellos. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. I want to see something indicated that you can see me a-okay and you can hear me a-okay. It says I am streaming. Oh, okay. I think I lost some of my chat. Oh. Okay, loud and clear. Will says loud and clear. Okay, phenomenal. Awesome. So to give you guys, again, a little bit of a background, as many of you know, we were featured on Netflix on a brand new show that is streaming, and it has made top 10 for the past couple of weeks. So thank you for all of you who have been supporting, who've been watching. Massive thanks to each and every one of you. I'm just super excited because this is a show that was essentially filmed last July. We were casted back in, I want to say April or May of 21, and we were filmed in July of 22. And my husband and I were the ones who were casted. We can be seen on episode number 4, like at the 8th minute marker. Okay. And so this is really a show that's like real estate meets Shark Tank, right? Like, how cool is that? I like Shark Tank. I love real estate. And so this was absolutely a really fun show to do. So there were other homeowners from across all of the US that were essentially pitching their property for sale, whether it was their own home or an investment property that they owned. So they pitched it right there on international TV. And the 4 tycoons were there in order to either put in an offer or identify whether or not it was a good fit. So the tycoons were the CEO at the Corcoran Group, Barbara Corcoran. We had the Redfin CEO, Brandon Copeland, a former NFL football player. So for those of you who've been watching football, he was one of the tycoons. And then Denisha Richter, she's an influencer. She used to run the Oprah show, OWN, I believe it was called. And so, yeah, she's also an investor, and her big thing is investing in people, investing in women. And she also has an Amazon a DSP program, as well as some short-term rentals. So when it was our turn, we had the opportunity to pitch a property. And so the property that we pitched was actually property that we'd purchased in town, local to us. And we were looking to position it really as a 3-generation home. Still was trying to convince mom and dad to move in with us, but adults are going to do their thing, and their jam was more along the lines of they wanted to stay down in Miami, so that's their thing. So we had set it up as a short-term rental / medium-term rental. Essentially, once we launched a property, and for those of you who are in short-term rentals, and for those of you who know my mantra is, if you are not using a dynamic pricing tool, you are leaving money on the table. And so that's one of the core tenets of our program. You must use a dynamic pricing tool, because the AI in the dynamic pricing tool can be very, very powerful. And you don't want to necessarily just set it and forget it, right? You do need to train it. You need to update it. So essentially what it does is, when you turn the dynamic pricing tool on, it would make sure there's a variation in your nightly rate. So for instance, your Monday night rates should not be the same as your Friday or Saturday night rates, right? So it's really important. And it needs to take into consideration multiple things, not just your, what they project based on previous year's data, but it needs to take into consideration what's happening right now, okay? So for instance, if hotel occupancy is low and there's no vacancy, and for instance, if you're in a compression market where there are concerts and all of those things, events, major meetings, conferences, or whether you're in a vacation rental market, right? It's going to be really, really important that your nightly rates are reflective upon what's going on at the time. And that's why I absolutely love the dynamic pricing tool that I use, okay? It takes a look at all of those things. It takes a look at, if there's a big concert happening in the area, it will increase that nightly rate, similar to like a revenue manager, okay? But again, it's not set it or forget it. So here's what happened with this particular property, and this is why I think it was selected to be a part of the show. This property was our second short-term rental. We had set it up, and we're in the process of onboarding a whole new cleaning team and ramping it up, because it was a different type of property and a different type of guests that we're looking to serve. And so once I turned on the dynamic pricing tool, my expectation was that, okay, this property is probably going to yield somewhere around $8,000 or $9,000 a month. So I thought it was going to be really juicy like that. Dare I even imagine 5 figures, right? Little girl from Haiti, there's no way I would, even dream of it being in the 5 figures per month range. But I was thinking, okay, maybe 8,000 or 9,000, which was already, off the wall and just really outrageous, to be honest with you. So I turn on the tool. I set the minimum nightly rate as a 30-night minimum, which is not what we usually do. We like the 2-night minimums, but I set it as a 30-night minimum just to test it out, to train it, and to have a little bit of breathing room to ramp up our cleaning team. So once I turned it on, I kid you not, the dynamic pricing tool, and those of you who've listened to me on podcasts, you heard the story already, so brace yourself. Once I turned it on, the dynamic pricing tool listed the property for 30-night minimum at $28,000. And I was like, okay, this is clearly wrong. Let me go ahead and turn you off to see what I can do to train you. I was gonna, reduce the ceiling, reduce the floor price. There's so many little levers you can pull on the back end of the dynamic pricing tool. So that was the goal, was to adjust it. And I see John. Hey, John and John. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to see you. Go ahead. John is a revenue manager. So John, feel free to overwrite everything and anything I just said about how I leverage dynamic pricing tools. Yeah, so I was going to pull those levers, right? And so I saw the 28,000. I said, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. Let me turn it off so that I can pull the levers in order to, train it to get it to be somewhere reasonable, because who's going to book a 30 nights at $28,000, right? It was like in the middle of, I want to say, spring or something like that. I support you. John, you're too kind. So I went ahead and I was about to turn it off. Next thing you know, it gets booked. Okay. It gets booked at the 28,000. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, is this a glitch? What is going on here? Because this is absolutely ridiculous. And so I looked up who was booking it, and it seemed legit. It went through, and the rest is history. That month it booked for $28K. The following month it booked for $21K, then $15K, and it averages about $22K. And this is a house that we had purchased for $462,000. And I'm going to spill the tea. We used a 5% down program that was available locally to us at the time for a second home. We leveraged that. I don't see that program anymore. It was actually created by like a family office, a group of, uber wealthy physicians who created this bank essentially. And so they lent to us at 5% down. For those of you who are all in on arbitrage, I hear you. It's an amazing strategy for cash flow. We walked into this house, I want to say, with no more than 21, 22K as a down payment. For any of you who know me, I love a low down payment so that I can have cash reserves, in case something goes wrong. Right? You got to be able to mitigate risk, and cash reserves helps me to do that. So was able to go in at a really low entry point. Mortgage was at about $2,500. This home averages $22,000. And that's when the casting company Mystic Arts reached out to us, and AirDNA reached out to us through Mystic Arts saying, okay, this house is definitely generating a lot of revenue. Would you consider selling it? And the rest is history. So you guys, again, we were generating I think we'd made up until that point over 6 figures, and purchased it for $462, got a cash offer, and essentially for $725,000. I want to say less than a year later. However, I did make some updates to the subject property, and I countered and I said, can we get a little closer to 900,000? So for those of you who haven't watched it, spoiler alert, I will let you watch the rest and you will see that the rest is history. So the questions that I've been getting asked are, what makes a luxury property? Are travel nurses, do I teach you? Many of you know I do teach other medical professionals how to get into short-term rentals. Do I teach about travel nurses? And how do you stay fully booked? What else? Where were we filmed? How much were we paid? Did we meet any stars? So those are some of the questions that I already have been asked. I definitely want to cover that with you tonight, but let me say hello real quick to everyone who has joined. Awesome. Hello. So someone here named Facebook user says, I hear you. Hello, hello, hello. That was like 19 minutes ago. I appreciate you being here. Elena, it is so good to see you. It is so good to hear you too. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So Facebook user says, yeah, the link that I posted in the comment didn't work. I accessed this from notifications that you're live. You're absolutely right, Facebook user. That link is completely broken. So Christian, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Can you please remove the link from the Facebook group for me? Pretty please. I tried to get on that link like 5 times. It would not let me on either. So I'm really bummed about that. But I am so happy to see that you were able to find me on notifications. Here's what I figured. I figured, you know what? If I go live everywhere, you're bound to find me, right? Am I right? Okay, so let's dive in, guys. I do want to go over some of the questions that I already have been asked. Okay, yep, kindly. Thank you, Christian. So drop your questions, guys, in the chat below, and then I'll dive right in. This shouldn't be a long one. This is definitely just Q&A. Ask me anything about luxury short-term rentals, our Netflix TV show. Let me know if you had an opportunity to, let me know if you had an opportunity to watch the show yet. And if you haven't, when do you plan on watching it? I think our segment is like somewhere around 8 minutes or 10 minutes, something like that. So super, super fun. Okay, so let's see here. Here is the first question. So where were we filmed? Okay, so there were 2 filming locations, okay, for our segment. We were filmed on site, on property, so at the subject property's location. And then we were flown out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and filmed at the Netflix studio in New Mexico. And that studio is where they filmed Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Okay, so we got to film on that set, which was very, very interesting. And guys, by the way, I'm still under NDA for certain things, so I will do my best to answer as much as I can without breaching my NDA. Okay, so super, super excited for all the questions. Okay, next question is, did you meet any stars? You know what? I think Nina Parker is probably the closest that we got to meeting a star. So she is the host of the show, and she's on E! Well, I guess Denisha Richter also is another star. She's the host of Oprah's show, OWN, I think it's called. So I don't do too much TV. So this is all very interesting to me. For someone who doesn't watch much TV, yet I was on TV. All right. So the next question is, what makes a luxury short-term rental property? Okay, so that is a great question. So when it comes to modern luxury, many of you have heard me on my soapbox, but hey, I'm going to beat the same drum over and over again, as long as it's true and it's accurate, right? So when it comes to modern luxury, guys, it is not necessarily about the accumulation of things, right? We don't need like a gold toilet or gold doorknobs or any of that. Okay, when we are working to accommodate the luxury guests, what they're looking for are my 3 C's. Okay, my 3 C's are convenience, connection, and communication. Okay, so convenience, as they're checking in, there's nothing that will kill the vibe more than having someone fumbling through the front door, trying to check in. They're going through the lockbox, everything's falling apart. That is just a whole, like, that's not a vibe. You cannot market it as luxury if you have your guests fighting for their life trying to get into the front door. Convenience, convenience, convenience. Okay, so there are some home automation systems you want to make sure that are dialed in so that it's really convenient for them to enter and exit the property. That is the first impression. The first impression is your guest entering into the door. If there is friction for them to enter the property already, like, it's like you just kill the vibe. Okay, so we do not need to break the bank to create that luxury feel, that concierge feel. Okay, so the next thing is communication. From the moment they are inquiring about the property all the way till they are driving through the property, the communication from place to place needs to be complete and cohesive. Okay, so if they message you and they say, hey, I'm looking to book your space, how far is this space away from the BMX track, right? Say they're coming for, you know, I don't know what they call those competitions, you know? So there's a tennis center, how far is it from the tennis center? Yeah, we love our automated replies, our automated responses, right? But that is your moment to take a breather and actually listen and answer the guest's question. I know this sounds basic, but sometimes we over automate our messaging and then we miss the actual question. They're asking you about distance. So your canned response of, thank you for your inquiry. We are located in city center. Look forward to, you know, hosting you. Go ahead and book your stay. That canned response is not going to be adequate enough to respond to the question, right? So once you've responded, you start to make that connection. You start to give them that warm and fuzzy feeling as though if they come to your space, you're going to take care of them. Then the communication continues. You want to understand the nature of their visit, you know? So if you're in a vacation rental area, are they there for a retreat? Are they there for, you know, family vacation? Are they there for a business retreat? Are they there for a mastermind retreat? So what is the purpose of their stay? Okay, so the communication is really important. If you're in a suburban area, guess what? They could be visiting to train at the local plant or something, right? Or they could be there to visit family, someone's 80th birthday, right? Or they could be there for a wedding or a funeral. Your tone, the conversation has to be according to that specific situation. Basics, but guys, I see so many people in my community miss out on that. And that is a low-hanging fruit right there, okay? So we covered convenience, we covered communication. The last thing is, and we didn't really cover everything deep dive, but I'm just giving you an overview. The last thing is connection. The luxury traveler, they want to have those Instagrammable moments. Do you have a feature wall that they could stand in front of and take a photo that says, you know, did you see Shoshana's house? Fort Lauderdale, she has the big sunburst and the umbrella and the pool table. Is there a feature wall so that they can take a photo to show everyone where they're at? That's what it's about. They want to have these Instagrammable moments. It doesn't have to break the bank to create that Instagrammable moment for them, okay? So they want to connect with nature. They want to connect and live like a local. They want to see what it really feels to live like a local. Otherwise, they can go to a generic Hilton hotel that looks the same in Arizona as it does in Texas, as it does in Georgia, right? It's like all of those paintings, they came from, like, they just printed it all out, but you want them to have an authentic experience. So if I'm in New Mexico, those tapestries that are woven, you want to really give them a feeling and a taste of what it is to live like a local. They want to connect with the others that are in their party. Okay, say they're traveling with family or friends, or it's a girls' outing or a guy's outing. They want to connect with those they're traveling with. So have you curated a space that they could sit around a fire pit and connect, that, you have enough place settings for them? You say you host 11, but you only have enough seating for 5. What are we doing, right? So connection is really important. So those are my 3 C's. There's more to it than that, but essentially that is what I call a property that we're setting up to be a luxury property. There's design. We know the king size bed is the default luxury travel bed, period, right? We know about natural fiber linens. So that's something I talk about all the time. Okay, someone asked, do you teach about travel nurses? And so this is so good. This is one of my favorite questions, because I do have midterm rentals in the suburban area. And so whenever people hear about midterm rentals, they think about travel nurses, right? But I do not serve travel nurses. Unfortunately, I love them to pieces. My sister's a travel nurse. Hey, Dad. And so, but I do not serve travel nurses because they are super, super frugal. My sister would tell you they'd rather sleep in their BMW than pay above market rents. The reason they're traveling is to take that whole bag and bring it home. They're not looking to, have their mortgage behind, have their kiddos behind, and then go and stay in this luxury space and spend all of that travel nurse money, on this luxury space. That's not what they're looking for. They will rather pile it on and share if they have to, and to reduce costs, but they are not my avatar. My midterm rental avatar are those families and guests that are displaced from their home due to some type of catastrophic event happening to the property. And so we get paid primarily by the insurance company, the temporary housing agencies that has to house these individuals who are in the higher end homes, but they are displaced due to a fire, a flood, a pipe burst, and so on and so forth. All right. So the next question is, how do you stay fully booked? Okay. So this is my favorite question because it stumps everyone every single time. For those of you who are long-term landlords, I'm going to need you to come back to me if you're multitasking. If you are a long-term landlord, okay, and if you have long-term landlord mindset, this is a whole different game here. Short-term rentals, midterm rentals is very, very different. So when it comes to short-term rentals, like my 2-night minimum properties, I am not looking to stay fully booked. I love me some vacancies because these are larger properties. And so after you've been doing it for a number of years, you start to recognize, okay, where is my biggest return on investment? Where is my biggest revenue point? And you can really pinpoint it. And so for me, it's at a 65% occupancy rate is where I find my sweet spot. Okay. And so I know this is going to be contrary to popular belief, but here's why. We have larger homes, 5 to 8 bedrooms on average. And so our sweet spot is around 65% occupied. Okay, now if I had a 1-bedroom studio where I'm driving occupancy, right? I would want to be way higher, like maybe 90, 95% occupancy, but 65% is my sweet spot because that gives me, well, with the turnarounds, you got to take into consideration your turnarounds. With the maintenance requests, you got to take into considerations your maintenance requests. We're just now building a property on the beach that is a larger home as well, with a carriage in the back and a pool, but all of the previous homes were not very new, right? So they're going to have some loose, things that we need to tighten up in between cleanings, in between turnovers. So to have enough margin, to have enough space, to have enough time to get that property in tip-top shape, okay? We need that margin. We need that breathing room, because here's what happened. I learned this the hard way. I was driving occupancy to bring it up to 80%, 85%, just driving occupancy. How do you drive occupancy, right? The number one way to drive occupancy is to reduce your nightly rate. So now our nightly rates reduced. We are not getting the guest avatar that we are seeking to get, number one. So that's already a problem. Number two, now we are starting to encounter damage to the property. Number three, we don't have enough time to repair the damage. And number four, we're giving refunds. No. I rather that bad boy sits empty than to attract the wrong guests, than to attract problems and repairs and then refunds. Okay. So it's better off sitting empty than occupied when you count the cost of what occurs if you're driving occupancy on these 5 to 8 bedroom type properties. Okay. So that is my story in terms of short-term rentals for these larger properties. But when it comes to midterm rentals for these larger properties where you're hosting these midterm insurance guests, they're paying close to your Airbnb rates, right? Well, they're there long. I essentially, some of them I consider long-term. We've had guests whose home encountered fires staying with us for 11 months. I have a client who has a guest who's been there for 2 years. Okay. And this is midterm rental. And so when it comes to occupancy, that is fully occupied. You know, I think with with one of our midterm rentals, there were 2 days of vacancy in the last 12 months, 2 days of vacancy in the last 12 months. Okay. So I hope that helps. But if you're looking to drive bookings, understand number one, what is your sweet spot? You don't need to be 100% booked. Okay. Being 100% booked is not a good thing. You don't need to be 100% booked. Understand what is your sweet spot and then work on getting there. So it's going to be a balancing act. Okay. All right. So I hope that answers some of those questions. Let me look in the chat. Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. I see you, Wayne. I see you, Margie, John, always supporting. Do you think Peachtree City is still a good market for STR? So that's a great question. So I like it. You know, it is in my own backyard. I'm keeping a pulse on some of the regulatory changes. There are some regulatory changes right now, LinkedIn user, but I am keeping an eye on it for sure. One strategy that we have been employing there is the midterm rental strategy. Until the dust settles on the regulatory changes, I would not be able to recommend wholeheartedly to get into Peachtree City. There are a lot of markets out there. So be sure to look around. For those of you who have not grabbed my 75 gems, I'm going to put it in the chat. And Christian, if you can put it in the chat everywhere for me, that will be awesome. 75 gems, my top 75 cities with the highest profitability. Check that out. And I see some of you on YouTube. Awesome. Thank you for joining me. Kenny, Shelly, Yvette, Kuntz, great to meet you. I don't think we have met. And I see, let's see. Okay, so, yep, Leah, we talked a little bit about the link. Okay, Lisa says, do you go in buying a home as a primary short-term rental and go and buying as a midterm rental? What characteristics do you look for? Do you go and buying a home as a primary short-term rental? So I will tell you this. I think I understand the question, but correct me if I'm wrong. I go in looking for short-term rental, period. My ideal property is a short-term rental, period. However, the midterm rental strategy is one that I stumbled upon, and I really do like that strategy as well, because one thing that I do teach is how less is more. How do you create that margin and those pockets of rest, you know? As being a doc mom with a whole husband, 2 boys and 3 dogs, you need those pockets of rest. And so for me, midterm rental turned out to be a phenomenal strategy and a phenomenal pocket for rest. I don't go all in looking for midterm rental, but there's definitely a play there that you can take into consideration. A couple of things. You want to understand, well, what are the claims that are happening in a particular location, right? You want to know the frequency of those claims. I would think. So I know for me, unfortunately, there are a lot of claims due to fires, and I don't live in a forest fire area. I would imagine those areas that do encounter a lot of forest fires will, be impacted, but we have a lot of accidental fires that are the owner or the family unintentionally have created. And so right now we're hosting 2 families with fires. Unfortunately, there was a big fire that was set intentionally at the local Walmart. And then we have a team that came in who is working on repairing that Walmart. And spaces are booked till the end of the year at least. We have no ETA on when that Walmart is opening back up. If you look up the news, you're going to see it. Unfortunately, it was like a youngster and some kind of TikTok situation is what I read. So I don't know all the details behind that, but the fires are so prevalent. Okay. But when it comes to being competitive as a midterm rental, what I have found is that those communities with those REITs, like those larger chain apartments. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what a REIT is, it's like a chain apartment essentially, right? Like I know here we have Bainbridge manages one. Camden is another. Have you guys heard of those? Like 200 unit, like really, really big apartments. Well, the workflow is such that when that individual submits a claim, their home, has burnt down, or a portion of their home has burnt down, the first step is that those individuals are placed in a hotel. Okay, so they place them in a hotel for a couple of nights. Then the insurance activates the temporary housing agency, and they're looking for a space for them. They're looking for a home. If they're a smaller family or an individual who's coming from, say, a condo, or they're coming from, 1 or 2 bedroom home, they're going to place them in one of these REITs potentially because they have a partnership with them. So they'll be in the hotel for a few days. The insurance adjuster is going to work on their behalf. Then they'll place them in one of these REITs, because the REITs, they typically have studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. Some have 3 bedrooms, and I've heard of 4 bedrooms, which is rare. But they're going to place them in one of these REITs because some of these properties are already furnished, or they can quickly furnish these properties in a relatively short period of time. 48 hours, they leverage a company here in Georgia called CORT, C-O-R-T, and 48 hours, that house is furnished. That individual can go into that 1 or 2 bedroom unit and they're good to go. So for me, and what has kept us in the blue ocean, like we're not in a feeding frenzy when people are asking about competition, saturation, we do not compete. There's no saturation for us. It's because our product is unique. Typically, again, these larger homes do not compete with these REITs, okay? And they don't compete with the hotels either. You have some extended stay hotels, right? So a comparable hotel for the standard of living that these individuals would be accustomed to, and what the insurance typically would select is like a Hilton, so like a Home2 Suites or Marriott Residence Inn. So they could have placed them in those types of units for an extended period of time. That's why I don't invest in these 1 or 2 bedroom properties, right? Because you have your hotels that could probably fit the bill, sort of, kind of, not all the way, right? You have your REITs or these multifamily residential units that can also fit the bill, right? So when I am in the 5 to 8 bedroom range, I just do my best to go in there and stay in there, It's to avoid competition. There's no competition. So it might be just me and someone else, right? If that, at one point when I was looking, it was only our properties that were that size. And so, yes, you really avoid a lot of competition when you are focused on, being a unique property. So we're sort of outliers, okay? So the larger homes will definitely be a great asset to have for these companies. I remember a family of 10 asking me, what can you imagine what it's like, to cook for a family of 10 in a hotel, right? And honestly, I can't, that is tough. That is really, really tough. And so although you may not have all of the things, we had a family book our 6-bedroom home. They're coming from an 11-bedroom home. So it's not going to be, the same, but we were the closest property that would meet their expectations. Okay. All right, I feel like I went on a whole tangent, but let me see what other questions do we have. Let's see here. Questions, comments, just feel free to drop them below. Okay, so Lisa, I really hope that answered your question about some characteristics. All right, so yes, someone says that the link didn't work. Yeah, I know, right? I hated that. Okay, someone said they watched it. Deirdre says she watched. It was very exciting. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Deirdre. So it was so cringeworthy. This is like over a year ago. Like I barely felt like I knew all the things that I needed to know, but alas, right? Okay. How much to rent to nurses? How to calculate cash on cash on a midterm rental? That is a great question. So again, I am not the midterm rental nurse expert. And here's why. I call nurses or travel nurses. I'm going to grab some water if you don't mind. You guys get to see behind the scenes for me. Let me get my water. I'm going to invite them into it. Okay, so I'm back. So when it comes to midterm rentals and nurses, I always say, everyone knows, I say, travel nurses are the mythical creature that everyone wants to serve, but lo and behold, surprise, surprise, they are so frugal, and I'm here for it. I do not blame them one bit. Travel nurses are super, super frugal. And so how much to pay for a travel nurse? Well, what you need to understand is what are the contract rates for those travel nurses for a particular market, right? And you can find that information on Furnish Finder. You get an average contract rate, so you can get an idea of how much they're going to generate, how much they're going to generate for their accommodations. And then at that point, it's a negotiation. So I'm not going to speak to it. It's going to be very market dependent. And yeah, there's that. But what I have found is you can really generate a higher rate if you're able to connect directly with the recruiter and with the hospital, if they're able to cover it themselves, and the nurse still gets his or her really good rate of pay, then that is definitely a pivot that you can make. So it's not, when it comes to midterm rental, it's not just about travel nurses. And that's something that I want everyone to understand. So hopefully that message comes across clear. I'm going to sip some water. All right, next question. Let's see. Okay, cash on cash return for midterm rentals. I like to keep my cash on cash return relatively close to my short-term rentals. And one of the biggest strategy that we leverage, and I'm going to spill the tea, don't tell anyone, but Amanda Hahn, the tax strategist for Brandon Turner for Bigger Pockets. Who knows Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets? Let me know in the chat. Let me see who knows Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. How are you? Oh my goodness. So good to see you. OMG, I'm loving this. Okay. So let me know in the chat. Okay, someone says me. Awesome. So Brandon Turner's tax accountant is Amanda Hahn. That's his tax accountant and tax strategist. Well, she and I are writing a book together. So I'm letting the cat out of the bag. That's just for those of you who are live. Okay, we're not going to tell anyone else. So one of the biggest things that we leverage is taxes. Okay, taxes is like the hidden secret to leveraging your ROI and your cash on cash return. Okay. So I know everyone's fighting over their little 1% rule. You got your 1% rule for your long-term rental, 2% rule or 3% rule for your short-term rental. Yeah, we're at like 80% to 200% cash on cash and gross ROI when we leverage our taxes. So we're doing cost segregation studies. We're getting 100% of our bonus depreciation. We're taking all of the passive losses that we can against our W-2 income. Members of our community have received over $100,000 worth of tax write-off due to the short-term rental loophole. I have been talking about this for weeks and weeks. I'm going to continue to talk about this. So we are co-authoring a book on short-term rentals and the tax loophole that higher income earners, medical professionals can take. Where you do not need to become a real estate professional, we just need you to prove material participation, which we are able to do within the program. So you're welcome. All right, next question. Let's see. I am looking. Okay. Is that it? There's no questions? Oh, okay, Kenny, I'm just seeing your question now, Kenny. I have to scroll. Okay, let me do this so that I'm not scrolling too far. I'm gonna open this all the way wide open. Okay, so I'm just looking at another monitor. Okay, phenomenal. So Kenny says, yes, I agree. That's been my experience, even with my 1 to 2 bedroom apartments. What has been your experience? Now I'm curious. Kenny, can you tell me what your experience has been? Okay, Margie says a couple of members are wondering if this live will be recorded. Oh Lord, okay, good. Please tell me this is recorded. It is being recorded. Okay, DeLeon Canterbury is asking, is saying brilliant. Thank you. Elena is saying, would you recommend to get into STR in another state? I live in Connecticut, which is not a vacation destination, unfortunately. You know what? It's possible. There are many individuals who launch in other states. I have someone in our community who lives in Hawaii, and he launched a beautiful 13-bedroom home in Kissimmee near Disney. That is in a whole other state. That's like in a whole other like atmosphere. Right? So the reason he wanted to take our program was because he already had a short-term rental in Hawaii, but going out of state, he knew he was going to need some support and need the systems to be in place to make sure he launches it correctly and he dots all his I's and crosses all his T's. He has his operations team on board. He understands what he needs. He understands how to audit them even from out of state. He understands the automations that are going to be important. He understands what he needs to create that boots on the ground. And so if you're going out of state, it's going to be really important that you understand what you need to do in order to launch it successfully. It is very, very feasible. We have another member in California who launched out of state. We have a member in Florida who launched 2 properties out of state. We have another member who launched 8 properties, all of which are out of state. She's in California. She was able to launch all 8 properties out of state and not even in the same state. Florida, North Carolina, Kansas, Georgia, and so on and so forth. So if you're going out of state, you need to make sure your systems are in place. And why do people decide to launch out of state? The main reason I have seen individual launching out of state is because either there are some regulatory restraints or regulatory restrictions for them launching within their state, right? So I know that some locations are very much challenged. California, for instance, is one that comes to mind, but there are others. And then there could be a financial constraint, right? So we know that you can get a better deal from a cost of entry perspective in the Southeast than on the West Coast potentially, right? So those are really some reasons that I've seen individuals launch out of state. Which is not vacation. So Elena, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you as I drink my vitamin water. All right, so Kenny says, how do you choose your property and your location? What things are you looking for? Oh, that's a loaded question and I love it. I absolutely love that question, Kenny. So here is what I do. Someone says frugal nurses, they're cheap. Frugal nurses, yes, but my sister's a nurse. So y'all, I'm here for them. I'm all about the frugality. So the way I choose my property is based on a number of things. So when I first started off, I wanted to start in my own backyard to kind of get a feel and a gauge of what it would be like to set up a short-term rental. But further down the line, I wanted to go ahead and identify what other markets were viable options for short-term rentals. So for instance, one thing that I wanted to do is to identify properties that would be like really cost effective, but yet on the other end, what is the ROI? What is their annual revenue in terms of what we can project that it would generate, right? So say your budget is 300,000, but you're wanting to make close to 100,000, right? So those are the levers that I was pulling when I first got started. I wanted to know which market existed that I can purchase a property for 300,000, yet generate about a six-figure income. Okay, so that is my secret sauce. If I'm not going to generate six figures a year on a property, honestly, I'm not all that interested, right? I know the numbers have changed and I know interest rates are up, but that was that's my barometer because all of that work, right? I'm going to want something in return. I'm going to want it to be viable. Okay. And so that's one thing that I'm looking at. I analyze the life out of numbers. I am a spreadsheet girl through and through. So I'm going to analyze that. Number two, I'm going to analyze regulatory restrictions as well as impending regulatory restrictions. So the next thing you want to look at is what are the municipality codes? What are the ordinances that are in place, and what are the ordinances that will be in place in the near future? And that is very, very important to find out not only what is in print, but what is in draft also, which is an exercise that I have everyone in our community conduct, is find out the regulatory restraints for a particular market. Number three, find out the health of the market. Is the market dying or thriving? All I hear is saturation. Well, pull the brakes, because here's the deal. Saturation is a very scientific and economic term, okay? Saturation is really a scenario where we see an increase in the product, so more rentals, but then a decrease in the revenue. So if overall you're in a market where there's a lot of properties, right? Compared year over year, last year to this year, there's a whole lot of properties. Say there's an increase in the number of units by 30% increase, right? So I want to know that. To me, that could mean two things. That could mean there's saturation, or that could mean there's a demand. How do I know the difference, right? So the second component, there are two levers there. I'm always about the levers. The second thing you're looking at, again, is revenue. Did my revenue increase by 30% also? Right? Did the number of units increase by 30%? Did my revenue increase by 30%? If that is the case, then guess what? Then it's a stable market. It's a growing market. There's some demand, okay? However, if the number of properties increased by 30% and the revenue increased only by 10%, or increase only by 20%, it did not increase by 30% or more, then that tells me there might be some saturation there, okay? Because my revenue needs to increase as well. And so that's, you wanna look at that kind of seesaw effect. So if the number of properties increased by 30%, the revenue decreased by 10%, this is clearly a market that is dying, okay? So for sure, saturation is definitely something that you want to look at, but understand the definition. Is it saturation or is this demand? So those are the three components that I look at when I am looking at numbers or regulation for short-term rentals. But then there's a personal component as well, right? Each person that joins my community, they come in with a different goal or a different agenda, okay? And that's something that I want to make very clear in the very beginning. Are you purchasing a property that you absolutely need to be a cash flowing, cash cow type of property? Or are you purchasing a property because you absolutely are in love with the location? This actual location has like sentimental value and you had great memories growing up, and all you're wanting to do is make sure that any of the expenses that are incurred by you using your beloved property in your beloved location is covered by the rental revenue in between those times? Or is it a mix of both? Like you really want it to generate revenue, but you want to leverage it as a lifestyle asset as well that you get to use for a portion of the time, right? So those are three different types of investors. I have investor A, B, or C. Which one are you? Right? Start to think about that. Which one are you? Because here's the deal. If you tell me, okay, I'm investor C, I absolutely love the location. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to own a property here. This is ski. It's got all the things that I've dreamt of. Don't come crying to me after you've enjoyed your whole year in the property, but you're not getting the same ROI or cash on cash return as, this other investor in that same, market, right? Set your expectations. So for you, you're that individual who's looking for, it's like a balance. You want to leverage this property for those, intangible satisfaction. It's not just the money for you. It's a combination of a lifestyle asset that's being covered by, the property being rented out. So the expenses are covered, but you're getting to enjoy it when you want to enjoy. Say I have clients like this. They're in their 60s, they're in their 70s. They have worked their fingers to a bone their whole lives, and they just want this place by Disney so that their grandkids can enjoy it. Yes, I'm here for it. I am here for it. So let's look at that, but at the same time, understanding that you're not going to be generating like top ROI or from a monetary perspective. You're going to get a return on your investment from your warm and fuzzy feelings as well, right? So that is definitely very, very important to understand. Okay, so let's see. Yes. All right. So, Justin, am I right, Justin? So how do you find corporate leads for long-term rental? That's a great question. And that's a whole question right there. And so Elena was just in our workshop last week. This is such a good question because this is what was asked. How do you find corporate leads for midterm rentals? And part of the workshop, which we're going to relaunch in a bit, So let's take your name down, Liz, and we'll let you know when we do the relaunch. It's probably going to be October or November. I don't know. My team will have to let me know. But the way we find corporate leads, first and foremost, is really positioning the property to speak to two avatars, right? You want to speak to two avatars, and those avatars or guest avatars are, these families that are looking to, move out of their home that has been destroyed or partially destroyed in a, catastrophic event. And then the second avatar are the temporary housing agencies. You have to position your property to speak to those two avatars. And once the insurance temporary housing agency reaches out to you, here's the deal. You need to be ready. You need to be ready to negotiate, and you need to be ready to present them, a proposal that they're going to approve. And you need to be ready because they're going to lowball you. And if you are an insurance adjuster right now, don't come for me, but you know how you do. Just saying, right? Okay, so you need to be ready. You need to have your proposal in place. So we have a student that was a part of our workshop last week, where I went through the blueprint from A to Z on exactly what happens on day 1, day 2, day 3, and what do you say? Who are these people? How will they appear? Because everything you know about short-term rental, you're probably going to have to throw it out the window. All of the never do this or never do not do this or do not, accept third-party bookings. Well, they only do third-party bookings, right? So everything that you know about STR, you might need to shove it out the window because the midterm rental avatar is totally different. Okay. And they're looking for specific things. However, there are two different amenities that they each need and that they're really looking for and they're willing to pay for. And so we make sure that we implement those within the property and within the unit. But overall, just putting your property out there, making sure that it is well equipped to serve this community is going to be super, super important. And then when they reach out to you, do not fumble the bag. A lot of you out here are fumbling the bag. And I'm going to take a sip because this requires me to take a sip. I see you out here getting your information from other long-term rental hosts, getting your information from short-term rental hosts that are in vacation communities. Everything that they're doing, everything that we're doing in vacation rental communities, it's not all applicable to the midterm rental clientele. Okay, so do not fumble the bag. You want to make sure that you are addressing the temporary housing agency in a way that is going to get your proposal approved, okay? Because when I provide them a proposal asking them for $15,000, $17,000, $20,000 a month, seriously, how comfortable are you asking for those types of numbers? They sound outlandish, they sound outrageous, but here's the deal. And that's why I published that article in Bigger Pockets. My first time I got the great pleasure of serving this clientele, when they asked me for the monthly rate, they were telling me this is long-term rental. They kept trying to tell me it's long-term rental. I was thinking to myself, ooh, it's long-term rental. And this was a property that we hadn't even planned on leveraging as a short-term rental, right? Or a midterm rental. We're actually repositioning our portfolio. We're about to sell it when the insurance called asking about another property, but that property was already booked. And they asked, do you have any others? And I was like, oh, okay, I might have something else, but what do you what's the rate? And they said, well, you tell us what the rate is. Guess what? My little naive self thinking, oh, long-term rental rent in that market was somewhere around like $1,800 a month, right? So I'm thinking, ooh, I want to charge double that, right? Because they're saying long-term rental, but it was a 6-month contract initially. So I said $4,000 a month. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's like double. The mortgage was like $1,200, right? So I asked for $4,000 a month. And they're like, great. It was too fast. When you're suspicious, you're like, no, that was too fast. I said, but wait. Oh, did you say that you wanted to know the price with like utilities? I was like, oh yeah, for utilities, that's going to be $5,000 a month. They said, great. And I said, oh, but wait, did you say that you wanted the rate locked in if you need to extend as well? They're like, yeah. And then I said, okay, it's $6,000 a month. They said, great. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, but wait. No, guys, it was bad. I said, oh, wait, did you say they have pets? And then I said, it was $7,000 a month. They said, great. I was like, but wait, peak season. What about peak season? I think we got somewhere around 8,000 or 9,000 a month. And they said, great. And then I just didn't have the heart to move on. But then that's when you start to ask yourself questions and be like, when would they say stop? And so my journey started there. I wrote the article, it got published in Bigger Pockets. And then I started to do some heavy research to understand, okay, what is the ceiling? What is the floor? Like when do they say stop? And that's when I understood what the policy D, coverage D in their insurance policy mean, which is a percentage of the property value, the percentage of the dwelling space. That is their allotment for short-term rental property. So they come at us and their allotment per claim could be anywhere from $80,000, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 per claim. And so if they're going to be there for 6 months, you can divide that by 6, or 12 months, you divide it by 12. That is what the bag is, right? So there was still a ton of room for me to grow. And then in addition, since there's pets, the pet has their own, because here's the deal. The pet's not really part of the dwelling. That is, the boarding fees that are incurred through, leveraging your local kennels and things like that. So although I will write up a proposal for 15, 18, 20K, I'm still the cheapest thing around. I'm still a good deal. So you go and rent out 5 bedrooms at the Hilton, 4 bedrooms at the Hilton, right? And then board some pets and see what that really costs. So that's really what I want to do at the workshop that we just had, is to kind of give the members of our community that, I guess, that chutzpah to ask for the price that they deem that stay is worth, because they have deep pockets. I'm not asking the family who just went through a traumatic experience with their property for money. I'm asking insurance money. And Lord knows we've all been paying insurances for a very, very long time. So if you're an insurance person, don't come for me. I'm just like Justin said, preach this. I'm just out here preaching. I love it. All right, next question is, hi, I'm new to your group, interested in STR for nurses and medical professionals. I absolutely love that. And so Facebook user, I really hope you can update your name. If you go to, I think it's chat.restream.io, Facebook user who just said they're interested in midterm rentals for nurses and medical professionals. If you go to chat.restream.io, right, Christian, is that what they need to do, so I can see who their name, who they are, so that we can connect? I absolutely would appreciate that, because here's the deal too. I was talking a little bit earlier about travel nurses and medical professionals, specifically travel nurses. I call travel nurses the mythical creature that everyone wants to serve, but sadly, they're like super frugal. So oftentimes you are not going to get the rate that you are looking for with the travel nurses. No offense, but that is the truth. And my sister's a travel nurse. I come from healthcare. I'm a pharmacist by training. So I know what it means to be so frugal. Okay, Celeste Zuper, it's a pleasure meeting you. I don't think we have met yet. So good to meet you, Liz. I so appreciate you chiming in with your question. Okay, good. I'm glad you liked the response. Awesome. So overall, yeah, so I think travel nurses, honestly, they're the mythical creature. Now, if you have a product, say you have an ADU, like a cute accessory dwelling unit, yes, that is a wonderful client for that type of property. If you have a 1-bedroom, say basement, and you're doing like a house hack method, I love me some house hacking too. That is a wonderful product for travel nurses. But if you have a whole house, like 3 or 4 bedroom houses, that's not going to work for a travel nurse. And if there's a travel nurse in here, feel free to overwrite me. Feel free to overwrite me, because yeah, that's not going to work for them if you're going to have a bit of a larger home. Because here's the deal, they want their privacy. They want a space where they can just once they're off of work, they go decompress, watch their Netflix, and they're out, right? So yeah, travel nurses are not necessarily wanting to share a space with other individuals. And so they like these studios. They love their 1-bedroom. They're in, they're out. They can pay market rent or lower, and they're good to go. So Celeste Duper, what is the asset that you're looking at for travel nurses? Is it a 1-bedroom? Is it a studio? Is it a 2-bedroom? What you got? Yeah, Celeste. So you said condo, multifamily units. Yep, that works. That'll work for travel nurses as well, especially if it's like a 1-bedroom. Now, if you have a 2-bedroom and it's like almost dorm style, that might work too. Like 2-bed, 2-bath, that might work as well. Okay. So just know that travel nurses, they want their own space for the most part. And that's feedback specifically from travel nurses. And here's the reason why I'm adamant. I don't have anything against travel nurses, okay? I love them too, and here's why. When I launched my 4-bedroom house, and a lot of stories I tell you guys, I tell you from a place of, yeah, I did that. It didn't go well, right? So when I launched my 4-bedroom house and placed it on Furnish Finder, and I was looking for all the travel nurses, bring everybody come and live together in this 4-bedroom house. Yeah, they quickly informed me. No, but I did go and I saw feedback when like I heard crickets from the travel nurse community. I said, why are you guys not booking my property? Don't come for me. I'm just, and trying to be honest and trying to figure out how to make it better, how to make it appealing, because it was a luxury setup. They said, absolutely not. The price point is too high. 4-bedroom, who needs that? And so they course corrected me. So that is why I'm adamant about why travel nurses, they do not work for the assets that we have. But definitely, if you have a 1-bedroom or a studio or a condo, a carriage house or accessory dwelling unit or a 2-bedroom basement or 1-bedroom basement, like that will work. That will work for sure for a travel nurse. And so one of the places that you would list for travel nurse is Furnish Finder. That's definitely a place that you would list. You would still list on your OTAs, such as your Airbnb and Vrbo as well, but Furnish Finder is where a lot of them are residing. All right. So Liz says, when analyzing property for midterm rental, what numbers do you try to reach? And so that's a great question, Liz. As long as I am at least 3x my expenses, I feel like you have a good deal potentially. Okay. So I project 3x, but I've been able to generate anywhere from 6 to 15x our expenses. So 3x is the bottom for me, even for midterm rentals. I like my midterm rentals to be, at a little bit of a higher price, at a higher rate than most. But again, I'm dealing with insurance. I know how to negotiate. I create safeguards for them to continue to be able to extend their stay. So they'll start off with like a month for the most part, but then they'll need an extension and then another extension. And then, so I create an environment for them where the convenience factor is there, right? So like most other individuals who may have onesies or twosies in bookings, right? So all these bookings, and then when their insurance guest wants to extend, okay, you need to know how much does it take? What's the timeline? If there's water damage versus what's the timeline if there's fire damage. There's two different timelines. So conversation, the first thing I hear is if there's water damage, I know that's going to be an estimated, number of months versus water damage. That's going to be an estimated number of months. And it's half, right? So water damage gets repaired in half the time as fire damage in most markets. And so I'm calculating that. So already I know my expectation. So I know if it's one of those, it might be a 4-month stay, it might be an 8-month stay, it might be a 6-month stay. I'm going to go ahead and block my calendar for 6 months or for 8 months, right? They're asking you for 1 month. They're asking you for 1 month, but I know with my experience, nope, this is going to be an 11-month project, an 8-month project based on my experience. And so that's something we were teaching in the workshop a couple of weeks ago is here's how long it takes to repair water damage on average, this range, and here's this range for fire damage. So I go ahead and block out my calendar, even though they want 1 month, I'll block it out for now for a number of months, because I rather have those extensions at those higher rates for a longer term than, these onesies and twosies, because once you start booking, they won't be able to extend. Okay. All right. Let's see. Elena says, when you buy a property for STR, would you advise to buy a property already renovated, or do you advise to renovate it yourself? How much is it usually to furnish 5-bedroom luxury home? Okay, love that. So Elena, when I'm buying a 5-bedroom or any property, I want it to be close to ready to go because I need the first month's mortgage to be paid by my guests. Just saying. So I may need a little bit of work, but not too much work. Like when it's like pristine, brand new, you're going to pay top dollar, but I prefer it to be, it needs a little bit of paint. It needs a little bit of, carpet to be removed. We remove all of our carpet because we're pet friendly. It needs a little something. Then I have an opportunity to negotiate to get a better deal than market rent. Okay. So I prefer it to need a little bit of work. How much is it usually to furnish a 5-bedroom luxury? It depends on the level of furnishing, and it depends on like how you're able to procure your deals. Okay. So there are builders within a lot of the communities where my members are that, for instance, say it's like a Lennar home, or it's a, what are some other big buildings like DH Horton or whatever, right? So whenever they're done building their homes in a community, right, those property 1, 2, or 3 that are the model homes, I'm spilling the tea, I'm giving you guys the tea. Property 1, 2, or 3 that are the model homes, they auction all of those furnishings. And so oftentimes I'm on those lists, and I have all those members of our community just join those lists so that they can go and buy properties. They can go and buy the furnishings from those auctions because those are well designed. Those have local designers that kind of put those packages together. So that's one hack. But in general, it costs anywhere from, I want to say $3,000 per bedroom if you're going to go kind of basic, to about $25 per square foot if you're going to go higher end, and as well as almost white glove. Okay. So a part of our community, we work with, Williams Sonoma, all of those, Williams Sonoma, Pottery Barn, Standard Textile, Brooklinen. So all of those companies, we're affiliates with them within, our mastermind. And so they have a white glove service. If you purchase through their package, they'll come deliver, set up everything for you. So I think having that affiliate is great. And the other portion that we have available, which is a great upsell when our guests have an amazing experience and say, oh my gosh, this mattress is the bomb. I want to sleep on this mattress. I need this mattress in my life. There's like a elegantly placed QR code that they can order the mattress that gets delivered to their home, a brand new one, and then you get a percentage, like 30%. So that's part of our upselling strategy, our passive income strategy. Because remember, guys, my mantra is, how do I own and operate the fewest number of properties that generates the highest profitability, right? How do we own and operate the fewest number of properties that generates the highest profitability? You have to squeeze the juice out of each property. And that is through also offerings within said property. All you need is one or two to be wildly profitable. All you need is one or two really well-positioned properties to change your whole life, right? We're not going to buy 10 meh properties. We're not going to buy 10 meh doors, right? You don't need 10 doors. You need one or two properties that are well positioned. And then once you have those one or two properties, you set it up so well. And then you continue to drive the value within that property. Imagine they like the snacks that you're offering. Okay, why is my hair doing this thing here? They like the snacks that you're offering within the property, right? There's a QR code. They can order it and then it delivers to their home. You have nothing to do with it. You have a store set up. That is part of what we offer within the program. We have the setup so that they can shop your property. Because imagine this, your property as a short-term rental gets so many eyes. You know how they say influencer market? Your property is an influencer, right? Everyone who sleeps and experiences your property, if they have a good experience, if they love the sheets, if they love the pillow, if they love the mattress, all of those are revenue generating items within your property, within your business. And at that point, it is passive income within your property because you can set it up that way so that you're generating revenue whenever your guest has a great experience. And then you have nothing to do with, the shipping of the item. Everything is like beautifully labeled, and then, they can enjoy it in their own home if they want. Okay, so that answered that question, Elena. Liz says, can you propose an increase in the rate when extending a contract, or would that look bad? That would look so bad, Liz. That would look so bad if you propose an increase in the rate. And so part of the reason you're proposing an increase from the front end is you want to guarantee them that you're not going to increase on the back end. That would look bad, honestly. So I wouldn't do it. If you have to, you have to. If you're like, okay, I am operating at a total loss, so be it. Looking bad at that point doesn't matter because you're just trying to, make sure that you're not operating at a loss. But go in the front end with all of your documentation. If they're going to ask you, Liz, I'm trying to tell you, they're going to ask you for 1 month, right? But you already know, because it's this type of disaster, how many months? We teach that in the workshop. It's going to be 8 months. So in 8 months, now we're in July, now we're August. Those are the months where I'm making my top revenue. You want to load that on the front end. You said, no, I'm not going to, be down at this lower rate in July, my peak season, for instance, right? I want to still capture the revenue that I could have made in July. I'm going to give you a flat rate. We're not going to increase. And then you have a number you're comfortable with, even if it's peak season, it still works. It works out either way. So know your number ahead of time. And so we actually, Elena will tell you, we actually spreadsheeted the life out of it. We have about 7 key data points that we look at to create that number. And we do an average of all of those numbers, and that's what we present on our proposal. So do not let them lowball you. Do not go back asking for a higher rate. That is not going to be That's not going to be ideal, because ultimately you want an ongoing relationship. You want to make sure you're listed inside of their intranet platform, and then you want an ongoing relationship with them. All right, for the luxury STR, who is the target audience? What is considered a luxury property? Awesome, great question, Facebook user. I don't know your name. I wish I did, but I did go over the luxury STR a little bit earlier. So that luxury STR is that individual or that family who is set apart from the environmental changes. You know, everyone's crying recession, higher interest rates. When you have the ultra wealthy or the wealthy, those individuals, one thing they're not going to, and I always get this word wrong, is it scrimp, scrimp? One thing they're not scrimping on, that sounds weird, is their travel. They're going to travel. They're going to travel. They are going to travel. And so that is who we're catering to when it comes to the vacation rental market. Luxury travelers, they want to continue to enjoy that part of their lives. However, when it comes to our midterm rental market, we are catering to those who live in higher end homes who are displaced from their property, right? If they're displaced from their property for 4 months, 8 months, 11 months, due to some type of catastrophic event that has occurred, fire, water damage, a tree split their house in half, which is a true story, guess what? They need a place to stay. And according to the insurers, they have to keep them within the same standard of living. That is who we're catering to. So what is it considered a luxury property? It depends. That's going to be very market dependent. And so like if you go to France, right, the luxury villa or the chalet is going to be somewhere around, you know, $30,000 a week. So there's a price point, you know, that demands that luxury property, I guess, category. And then there are other attributes. So what I spoke about a little bit earlier was the 3 C's of luxury travel. What they're looking for is not necessarily the accumulation of things. As a matter of fact, the more toxic, the more junky, the more like overwhelming it can be. When it comes to luxury, you have a well-designed property, clean lines. It's going to be very much streamlined. It can be modern. It could have a different theme, Scandinavian, French country. It just depends on the market, the way it is designed, the way it is set up. But really, the luxury traveler is looking to live like a local, is looking for stellar guest communication as well as convenience. And that's done typically through automation, the way the property is set up. We know the default travel bed for the luxury traveler is a king size bed, but outside of that, the only thing that would preclude a property from being marketed as a luxury property, and you wouldn't be able to change anything about that, is the whole vibe in the neighborhood. Like as you're entering that location or driving into the neighborhood, is there that feeling of like the tension of, you know, I'm scared. Like, am I in the hood in Miami, like where I'm from? Or is it more, you know, is everything well kept? Is there a curb appeal? Are the lawns well maintained? You know, there's definitely that component there as well. So for luxury, it doesn't have to break the bank to attain luxury. Ultra luxury is different. Ultra luxury is when I'm dialing in the private pilot, the private chef, the butler, tennis lessons, all of that. So that's ultra luxury when you have a full concierge service. But luxury, you can definitely leverage luxury without breaking the bank for sure. All right. So let's see what the next question is. Liz says, thank you. I hope that helps, Facebook user. Oh my goodness. Liz says your information is so valuable. I am here to serve. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Liz says, what do insurance companies like to see in properties? Oh, or in the proposals? So Margie says, I want a private chef, please. Me too. So as far as the proposals, they have certain things that they're just asking for. They want to know what you're requesting for your pricing. And let's see, you want to outline what is included as well. For instance, is lawn care included? They just want to see the breakdown. Is everything all inclusive? All inclusive really makes their lives a whole lot easier. So they tend to like all inclusive, but once in a while, it depends on who the adjuster is. Once in a while, they may ask you to go ahead and itemize certain items if in fact, the adjuster wants to see them itemized. Okay. So the insurance temporary housing agency, when it comes to the terms or your proposal of the term, they want to make sure that you mention, if that's discussed, if that's agreed upon, that you are locking in that monthly rate, you're locking it in. They want to know if there's a pet fee included. They want to know if lawn maintenance is included. They want to know, well, you want to write down the start date, you want to write down the end date, the term, you want to write down whether or not extending is at the same rate, yes or no. So those are some of the things. Are utilities included? What are the utilities? Oh, don't forget about internet. Is that included? Is that not included? That kind of thing. You want to let them know a line item for cleaning fees. So typically you'll add like one cleaning on there, right? But I require a monthly cleaning for our properties. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna turn this into one of those long-term rental situations when, the lease is up 11 months from now and you got to do a whole gut job, right? So I didn't go into short-term rentals to have to gut my short-term rental. So we have the cleaners come in at least once a month, okay? So those are some of the things, and all of those templates I include in the workshop as well. So let's see. All right. Is there a place to go to find private chefs on demand? Oh, that's a great question. I think Bark may be a place. And also, I know someone was asking in the workshop about finding security as well. Bark.com, that app is a place as well. But I like using local influencer chefs to my area to kind of make those introductions and let them know what it is that I'm doing, kind of create those relationships. So that's it, guys. I know that I am way past my time. It is time for me to go and eat Taco Tuesday with the boys. I really hope this was insightful, but this is what we do. As many of you know, that we have Luxury Short-Term Rental Academy, where we go over this in detail. You will have access to all of the leases, the templates done for you. Pretty much you just plug and play. If you are interested in learning more, to get the short-term rental, off the floor, your midterm rental off the floor, please do not hesitate to reach out. Mention STR in the comment below, and we will have someone reach out to you. If you're interested in midterm rental, feel free to mention MTR in the comments. So STR, MTR, and we will connect with you because we are enrolling our cohort for now. Would love to get these step-by-step guides and swipe files into your hands so that you can make a difference. If you hadn't seen, we had an interview a few weeks back with Karima. She's a teacher. She launched her midterm rental, was able to generate her annual salary in just 2.5 months. And so again, these are the types of properties that we're looking for, those that we know will have a lot of meat left on the bone, because otherwise, what are we going to do all that hard work for, right? So we're looking for freedom, not only financial freedom, but time freedom, right? We don't need 10 doors. We don't need 20 doors. We just need 1 or 2 well-positioned doors to be wildly, wildly profitable. Because you know what Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way to make money, while you sleep, you will work until you die. And so I want to share that with you. How do you make money while you sleep? It's leveraging, 2 highly profitable properties. Start off with one. That's how we started. And then we grew and grew. And that's how we landed ourselves on Netflix. And so I hope this was inspiring. I hope that you got something out of this. Thank you so much for joining me and spending your night with me. A lot of you just kind of hung tight. I so appreciate you and I value you. And I will see you next week. Godspeed and good night.